In this episode, we talk lessons that we've learned from lockdown. We also talk business building with one of the greatest business builders in Jarrod Carman. He's been able to successfully duplicate himself to take many of the more annoying roles off his plate and onto team members. So strap in for Jarrod Carman and Peter Gourdouros and I's discussion on lessons that we're learning from lockdown, building some businesses. This is Real Estate Renegades. You want the normal real estate training you've been told a million times? Make cold calls, knock on doors. Best be switching off now, because in this podcast we go out of the box using unknown tactics, primarily that the real estate industry's never heard of, in order to get you called in more often, convert those listings and get more success without the painful cold calling. Listen up, we're in for a ride. This is Real Estate Renegades. All right, so before we get to the lessons that we're learning from lockdown episode with Jarrod and Peter, remember this episode brought to you by agentprospecting.com.au. You'll notice that I'm in a hoodie. I'm freezing out on a farm, but it's wonderful because I'm seeing my kids. Well, the reason that I'm able to take time out of my business, fly across the country for both personal reasons, business reasons, and have some flexibility of my lifestyle is because I've taken tasks off my plate that could be done by outsourced team members, and you can too. At agentprospecting.com.au, we can have a highly trained, like Navy SEAL group of people make your telephone cold calls for you, make your prospecting calls, make your follow-up calls for you, do your Facebook lead generation for you. So if you want to avoid the learning curve of learning how to use Facebook and social media to generate leads for yourself, if you want to, you know how to make cold calls, but if you just don't want to do them, then go to agentprospecting.com.au. And so long as we don't already have an agent in your area, we can become your prospecting team for less than the cost of a quarter of one sale. So imagine one sales member, if you had one waged team member that could do all of your prospecting, even that would be incredible. Imagine if you had a part-timer that could do it, that'd be incredible. What if it was a quarter of one wage to take all of your prospecting off your plate? Well, if that's interesting to you, go to agentprospecting.com.au. We'll see if there's someone in your area, and if there's not, you get to hand off one of the most unpleasant parts of the real estate business for us to do at a rate where you'll end up with 20 to 25 appraisal leads per month. So if you want that, agentprospecting.com.au. Now, on to our episode with Jarrod and Peter.
What's going on, Twids?
It has been too long, my man.
It's been a very, very long time. Well, that's what happens when you get locked up in a state.
I know. We've had a few texts during the last, it's probably been a year or two since I've hugged you, you son of a gun. Hey? But we've had a few texts where we've said, I hope you're all right. Oh, yeah, whatever. Bloody hell, man.
Excuse the beard, mate. Excuse the presence, but I'm enjoying a break. I'm enjoying the, not having to look flash.
We'll tell Jarrod's story a little bit in a minute, and I'll sing his praises about how amazing he is. But for now, you just got to trust me. He's a freaking beast. And I've known Jarrod for many, many years. He's become like a brother to me. He was the first person I called when Arnold Schwarzenegger said, hey, do you want to come to my house and play poker? And he did. And he came over, and we've had a blast in our life together, both business and professional, JC. So, but I hear that
listening to you though, mate, you are a gun. I'll give you that. But what you were talking about with Will in regards to your different personality that you have behind the scenes, you're not the same. And I can see you two in a listing appointment. I can see you and Naomi in a listing appointment, and you're just sitting there quietly, and Naomi taking over. I can see that.
Well, but that's the thing. It's not like they say that opposites attract. In the case of me and Naomi, we're both as crazy as each other. We're both extroverted. We're both hams and kind of performers.
Just flip roles.
Yeah, and that's the thing. She's as talented enough that, like, she ran. Did you come up? There was very few blokes who came up for it, but I know Spillane was there. We did that Phenomenal Women conference.
Yeah, I missed it, unfortunately. I didn't think I was invited because I was a male.
So Chris Hines came, Michael Spillane and me, and there was a couple of blokes, but everything else was, Naomi was the me of that event, and she did everything that I did, and everyone agreed she did it better. I nearly lost my job that day. But she tells me that mate, this 7-day lockdown just
pipped you from a $300,000 record month. Is that the case?
Yeah, we're one sale away, which it hasn't stopped us from a sale. What has stopped us was getting a Section 32 for this estate that is, that fat. And the clients are now reading through it. So I've got today.
You got today.
To tip over. So we're at 292 for the month.
Jesus, mate. Well done to you. Is that a record?
It is for me, yeah. For personal sales, yes.
Congrats, bro.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, after 14 years, it's look, I think
it
was really significant because I got back on the tools. For a long time, I was doing a lot of coaching and speaking and traveling around the country and doing different stuff and trying to let my team do it all. And COVID was a real, let's say, a clean out for us. I lost some really good performers to Queensland. A lot of people from Victoria just bailed out and went to Queensland. So I lost two of my biggest performers to the Sunshine Coast, and good on them. And one of them was actually a training event. It was really interesting. I gave some training over Zoom to the team and, visualize what you really want in your life and do the serial killer thing and put it up on a board. And it was classic 2 days later. And the fella in mention had been with me for 8 years. And very much an analytical guy, dot the I's, cross the T's, and he'd go back and check that he dotted the I's and crossed the T's. And he rang me 2 days after the training. He said, JC, I was listening to your training and my wife and I have had a discussion. We've decided to buy a house in Queensland, sight unseen, and we're finishing up in a month. Thanks. Like,
wow.
What? COVID's been fantastic for people. It's made them really think, especially in Victoria, it's made them really think, what do I want in my life? So I lost so many people because then others went and started their own business, became competitors against us. And it was really interesting. So I'm like, righto, I'll give up the speaking and coaching and touring around and get back on the tools. And here's the result of it. So
yeah, wow, man. And in that, I mean, I love that you can say those things, not with bitterness, not with malice towards those people. Because I've seen a lot of principals in this industry that would not have your attitude about those things. You did it with your selflessness because you are the one giving them sound principles for a better life and you mean it. And so how can you be cranky when they go and do that? Like every business owner once started with someone else and they decided they wanted to have a crack on their own. So how can you begrudge someone else if they go and do the same thing?
Well, look, I go through it like anyone, any other director.
You'll kick the dog for a minute or two and you'll think.
I went through my moments of, and the one thing that does irritate me is if people do leave a business, if you ever leave a business, don't shit can the director or shit can people that you used to work with and make up bullshit. Just don't do it.
I agree.
Don't go in and say he doesn't do this and he doesn't do that especially if they're lies. So that's the one thing that really irks me.
100%.
Other than that, and I'll bury people if they do that. I get really upset. But just leave with good grace and if you're a competitor, become a competitor. Just even if you don't mean it, talk nicely about them because it makes you look better anyway.
Well, I tell you, there's a particular brand that is. Well, look, you know what? Real estate agents across the board aren't that. I've seen some horror stories of agents leaving, stealing databases that technically they don't own, that's prohibited. I've seen agents leave in the wrong way. Yeah. I've seen principals, when agents have left, act in a manner that is the wrong way for everyone's best outcome. No one wins when there's that sort of thing. Yeah. Danelle Weissman, I don't know if you met, Danelle, of course, and when she left her brand, she composed herself in a manner that I thought, good on you, and she left in the right way. Her principal almost helped her set up her own business in competition to him. Yep. They acted in a manner that I thought if everyone acted like they did, that boy, oh boy, would we have a more positive industry in every possible way. Danelle could walk into that office now and get a job, be in business together. So he's left the door open for her to come back if ever that's the right thing. And she left the door open that if ever, heaven forbid, this business ownership thing wasn't for her, she could go back to a fertile ground because she didn't leave it because she wasn't successful. She left it because she wanted to have a crack on her own. That's the way to go, And
it's sometimes it's harder to act reasonably and responsibly. It's easier to act out of anger and hurt. Yeah, it's so much easier because that's for most people that's a normal reaction. And I've been guilty of it, but after dwelling on it for a day, I'll say, hang on, no, this is not how I want to behave. It's not how I want to be known. So yeah, just try and think of abundance and just think, you know what, there's plenty of business out there for everyone. I'm happy to see some of the guys who used to work with me that are having success. I'm stoked for them. I'm absolutely stoked for them. There's enough for all of us. And it increases our level. I was listening to you before about people not contacting buyers, not calling people back, all that sort of stuff. I lose sleep over that. You know, I would hate to not get back to people. Sometimes when you're a sole operator and you're that busy and you've had, you know, 75 people come through opens on the weekend, yeah, you're not going to be able to get back to everyone. But that's when you shift and change and go, okay, I need help. Now, I've been in that position before. We've been so busy that I haven't been able to keep up with the volume. And I said it, and I want to talk to every buyer that's been through, whether they're interested or not, whether they're hot, cold, doesn't matter. Because 5 years' time, they're going to sell their house and they're going to remember that you're the one that did call them. So it's really important. So that's why if you haven't got a team and you're running more than 10 listings, go get a team.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And well, that's, I suppose, the beautiful thing is that, if you're that busy with genuine dollar productive business, that surely there's enough revenue to take some of those tasks that are eating up your time. Would you, I don't know how much of that whole discussion you caught, because we were talking about that from when we started the stream at 9 a.m., 7 a.m. in Perth here, 9 a.m. for you guys. What is there anything you'd add to the order with which, because you've done it for yourself, you've helped your agents because you're in a network in the eView group where it encourages, I suppose, almost intrapreneurship. I don't even know if that's a word, but like them being their own business within the overarching business of eView, within the overarching business of eView Mornington Peninsula. These guys can build their own kind of business within the business. What would you add, or as far as going from agent by themselves to agent with one PA to agent with two? What are some of the priorities and some of the specific outsourcing mechanisms, tools, order, hierarchy, or whatever that you would take to go from that step 1 to step 2, step 2 to 3, etc.?
It's a really good question, Martin, and I'm glad you asked it because it's one I get asked a lot. And not that our process is perfect, but probably the first thing to get help with, the first thing to get help with is your admin work. So the stuff that you're not good at. Most salespeople, put it that way, great salespeople tend to be fairly extroverted. Not always. I'm an introverted extrovert. They tend to be extroverted and they tend to be really good at communicating with people, but they're shit with paperwork, or they're terrible with following through with things. So in my opinion, you need someone to help out with that, but someone who has got a bit of a personality that they can speak with humans as well. So that they're not just, on the computer and don't want to speak to anyone, because some of the administrative people tend to be a little bit like that, personality types. I'm generalizing massively here, by the way, so pigeonholing. So someone who can communicate. So Caitlin Broomhall was my first PA. Not my first PA. She was the first PA that then stuck for a really long time. She's been in our business now for 8 years. And 8 years? Is that long? 6 years? 6 years. And she's now the general manager of the business. Because she could speak to humans, she could get in front of an open if I really needed it, but administratively, she was amazing. She could do things 10 steps ahead of me that I needed. So you need someone that can do the admin side of things firstly, and can organise all your letterbox jobs, all your contracts, all the stuff that you just don't want to get bogged down in. You need to be able to delegate it to that person and go, get it done.
I've talked to Naomi about Caitlin in particular.
If anyone thinks of poaching her, I'll kill you.
Well, I've already told her. If ever Caitlin wants that sunshine bloody change, get her. But how hard are they to find? Is there a Caitlin in any marketplace, or is she as much a unicorn as $1 million agent is a unicorn?
She is a unicorn, yes. But no, they're not that hard to find. They're not really, but you do have to sift through them. I remember Tom... God, I haven't forgotten his last name. He'd burned through about 52.
Remember, he used to have the number on the slide. He'd just have a big number, and every event it'd go up by 4.
He was just burning through PAs. No, you just need to. The old adage: hire slow, fire fast. If they don't fit your needs, and culturally it doesn't fit, it's in their best interest that they move on too. It's in everyone's best interest. So good, solid communication around that of just, are you happy? That's the first question. Are you happy? Are you enjoying it? No, not really. Okay, well, this isn't for us. They're not. Are they unicorns? I've got some amazing administrative people in our business at the moment, and they are the lifeblood of the business. Without them and without salespeople, obviously, we can't function. and without the PM department, we can't function. Everybody suits their role and everybody kind of fits in to work together. And I've always focused on skills, yes, but skills can be trained if they have the right attitude. Caitlin, yeah, she is a unicorn. To go back, so administration person first. That is what I suggest to everybody, but that has some level of skill that if you throw them into an open for inspection, they're not going to freak out and go, I don't want to speak to humans. Okay.
Or if they have to deliver like some sort of administerial news over the phone, or heaven forbid, even drop off some paperwork, that they're competent to do so, even if it's not frontline, hey, do you want to sell prospecting?
Yes.
They can still communicate as part of their administerial production line.
Yep. Caitlin hated asking for business. She just hated it. She didn't like the feeling of sales, of being a salesperson. It wasn't her thing. So she couldn't wait to not have to do opens and be in front of people, but she did for quite a while. She'd be in front of opens, she'd take people's details. She was really comfortable with that. But just following through on asking for business, not her thing. And I never asked her to do it. It was
Dude,
more...
it wasn't my thing. When I tell you, when I was listing and selling, I was great at the presentation. I was best in our office at the presentation. I even got a bit of that icky feeling. So look, I got good at it later, that I could discipline myself to do it. But there would have been a year and a half where I used to close verbally. I used to just say, so we'll just handle the paperwork. And I would just forget the signing of the agency agreement. And it never bit me on the butt. And I just sent my PA the next day. And when the PA went around to get that signed, they asked with the energy of the Coles checkout chick. They weren't there to, oh, so provided we can do a great job for you, Jarrod, can you think of any reason that you wouldn't want to go ahead with a magnificent agency service like we provide? There was none of that. They just asked, like the same way the Coles checkout chick asks you for your money with 100% closing ratio. That's how my PA used to go and get this signed. It was just, oh, we need a piece, sign this, okay. And that was my little temporary workaround for the fact that I didn't really like asking for the business. It was a bit icky for me. Same as Caitlin was saying.
Yeah. The next person to put on then is a buyer's agent that just focuses on buyers, just speaks to buyers, follows up buyers, and get them to prioritize potential vendors in those buyers as well. So call them first.
What's the words? What's the prioritizing? What's the sifting process that can take 75 guests at an open and sift out the 15 that are your next sellers?
Yeah. Okay, so it's learning the skills, and we'll talk about it as well, of just asking questions. Ask the right questions, but not like a robot question. Like, can I come to your house? Or, I see agents do it all the time. It bothers me. You can tell they're scripted. It's like, okay, I'm glad you learned the script and dialogue. That's fantastic. But now deliver it like a human, not a robot. So we have a process of questions, and I'm always looking for or listening to, depending on the person that I'm speaking to, I'm trying to focus in on their mode of operation, whether they're a visual person, all that sort of stuff, so I can communicate with them effectively.
That's advanced shit, gang. I like it, Jarrod. It sounds good. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. That means they're auditory.
Thank you very much. Those sort of skills are really important to hone in on, but you get that down after a little while. But just asking simple questions. Like, how did the first question I ask when they come through the door, how'd you find out about the property? Like if you can catalog your answers. If it was just a signboard, okay, they're driving around just the area, then you've got a mode of questions you can go to from there. If they saw it on realestate.com, okay, they've been looking intently, they're usually, a buyer that's in the market looking. If they're just from down the street, holy shit, they're a potential vendor. So there's all these, just from that one question, there's all these choose your own adventure stories from there you can go. Right.
The young folk are scratching their head. Choose your own what?
Yes, I'm showing my age.
Yeah, but people our age have got 1 million of them still on their bookshelf.
Classic. But you can go down a mode from there. It's really simple. And in your search, have you seen anything you like so far? Or we've only been looking for 3 weeks. Okay, cool. What led you to start searching 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Right,
we threw one in there that was one of my go-tos in the early stages like that. I used to start with it, but then I'd sort of kind of add it as question 2 or 3. It was just, so where are you off to? Right? Because if they're not off to a suburb, they'll say, oh, nowhere, no, we're just checking out prices. Like, where you're off to is so conversational, so hard to kind of just fob off. You know what I mean? So where you're off to, no one's really going to go, nowhere. If you've got any degree of rapport building skills, so that's a real good one that they're either going to tell you, oh yeah, off to Queensland, just got whatever, you know. So, or where you're coming in from. But yeah, the where you're off to is a good one.
Open for inspections are the best. You get to converse with people, and that's why I love having a team, because the team will focus in on things too. If you're still at the door on your own, good luck.
Yeah,
You can't do it.
Yeah, two people in
so I
open.
like to have a team
Don't skip by that one. When we were doing that open for inspection secret shop that I was talking about with Will and with Naomi, two people at the open for inspection. There was maybe 10 out of the 150 that had two. Everyone else was just, here's a flyer, have a look around. I'm here if you got any questions. Like,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah. What I find funny is agents that follow people around the house going, here's the kitchen and here's the bathroom. So thanks, Brainiac. I can see that for myself.
Yeah.
Listen to the questions. Listen to the answers to your questions for one, but listen to them speaking. All right. If they're talking to each other, and watch out for their body language and look at how they're looking at each other. Those sort of things are the skills that you should be able to hone in on as an agent. And if you're on your phone or sat on the couch, which I heard recently, an agent sitting on the couch while people walking around the house, looking at his shoes all polished. What the is that? Pay attention, be diligent, and watch. Just watch for their reactions. Let them walk around the house and watch for their reactions and listen to what they're saying to each other.
There was a guy, Jarrod, I didn't include this one as part of the formal secret shop study that I did, but I went and saw an agent 5 doors down from my house, and I was eventually sold that house. And I went and saw this agent at an open, and he was in there watching the cricket. Now, I built good rapport with him. I watched the cricket with him. I said, how they going? Blah, 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 right? Nice guy, down-to-earth bloke, great personality. But would I in a million years ever list with that guy? And the answer is a resounding no. You know?
Wow. Okay.
I've heard the stories about him sleeping. I've heard the horror stories about him in there sleeping.
That was one of the first opens I went to was in Mount Martha. And I remember this little old lady that was sat down. We walked into the house. He had to walk downstairs into it. And she was sat on the couch knitting. I'm like, I thought I'd walked into the vendor, and she then puts her knitting down and picks up her piece of paper and, oh, hi, do you want to fill your name in? I'm like, no, I really don't. Are you the agent? I was blown away. I'm like, if this is real estate agents, look out, I'm coming.
Yeah.
So, and took over.
One of the ones Kayleen was doing, it was an auction in our, up on the Sunshine Coast when we lived at, up at the sunny coast at Caloundra. Auction, high profile agency. I mean, one of the ones that prides itself on quality, right? Don't want to name names, but one of the ones that prides itself on being a cut above. And same sort of thing. Like it was, smoking on the way in, right? So already repelled Kayleen. Smoking on the way in, said, and up the back, Kayleen noticed, I've got to get this right because it was maybe 10 years ago, noticed the register that the person should have directed her attention to, or frankly should have asked, didn't tell her to fill it in, and on the way out, sort of said, oh yeah, call me if you kind of whatever, just was out the front smoking. And there was the register that no one had signed at an auction. Couldn't follow up if he wanted to.
No. Because
didn't get any details.
Mind blowing. Well, the nice thing is around here, our competition is really good. It's really, really good.
Have you ever done the randomly chosen secret shop, Jarrod? Because a few times I've been told that. Then I've challenged that agent and that principal to send out the wives of the receptionist and the whatever, and it's come back with similar results than we got. So you might find, Jarrod, if there's 150 agents that are on the peninsula, have I lost you, bro? No, still got it?
No.
Yeah, you might find out of the 150 agents that would happily service any listing there in Mount Martha or whatever, there'd be 150 agents that would happily service it. True. You'll probably find 15 that are great and 105 that are just normal. So, but it'd be worth the exercise. Just choose them at random, Yeah,
that's a good call.
Adam Gould did that. Adam Gould said the same thing. He did the study. I went back the next month, and he's like, "You would not believe this." And then he rattled through, and
Right. I guess it's because I swim in that pool with the others. I try and push the elite, so the guys who are following through. So there are consistent ones that I keep coming up against. So that's why I think all the competition's good. Yeah. But you're right, they're not. But I don't ever want to rest on my laurels. That for sure. Thinking that the competition is slack because I'm pushing.
Yeah. And act as if they're all Matt Steinwade. and then, but even in the back of your mind, no, they're not.
Yeah. Now, so with that buyer's agent, to go back again, because we jump around a lot,
We
mate.
do a little bit.
We chat and carry on. With that buyer's agent that you put on has to take care of most of the non-dollar productive stuff for you. So they're still dollar productive, the building and pest inspections, the finance inspections, all that sort of stuff that ties you down and takes you away from the phone or takes you away from getting face-to-face with other people. But be smart about that too. If you've got a finance inspection that you know is going to be borderline, that you know the value of turning up is a tough one or whatever, you need to get to those. Or trust that your person is good enough that they can talk around or flag a problem. All right. Building and pest inspections, especially if you know that's going to be a problem, you get there, or you send your gun person who is your buyer's agent that can stick things back together and keep it together if there's going to be a problem. So just be wary of that and flag it. You can't just set things and forget it. It's never going to work. If you have people in your team, I think the ultimate team is a PA admin, so administrative person, and then at least 2 really good buyer's agents that do one that will do a little bit of prospecting for you as well. That is the ultimate team. It's financially really good. You don't have to sell a lot in order for people to make good money. For me to write the money that we're writing now with the amount of PAs I've got, I have quite a lot of assistants because I want to grow them into their own agents and then they go out on their own. So that's the ultimate reason, not so much because I like having this massive team. It's I chose those individuals based on those people as individuals and what they want to get to, and I'll help them get to it. And along the way, we all have a win. So their bonuses are going to be amazing this quarter. They're going to make really, really, really good money. And we'll all make really, really good money because we're all working together. So, but that ultimate team, buyer's agent, 2 buyer's agents that do one that will do prospecting for you as well, and a paperwork administrative person. That's how I see it. How many PAs do I have at the moment?
Yeah, we've got a few questions there. So we're going to ask these questions, but it's remiss of me. We are going to get on to, I've got some questions of Jarrod around his other skill set, because you hear how methodical and practical and all of that, this good advice is around team structure and building and leadership and how to grow folks and grow your team level. Jarrod's an expert in how to bloody fix your head. So I'm definitely going to spend a bit of time there with Jarrod in a moment. But yeah, Linda asks, how many PAs do you currently have, and how do you incentivize them, knowing that there is pretty high volumes to aspire to? So you're going to have to adjust this depending on where you're at. But yeah, it's good question.
And I haven't adjusted my percentage for them since I was at 3, and I've now it's 5. So I've got 5 people that are working with me in my team. 4 of them are just buyer specialists. That's what they do. And they do a bit of prospecting as well. And 1 is an administrative PA. She didn't want to work weekends and didn't want to do the closing stuff. She doesn't feel comfortable with that. So yeah, I've got 5 at the moment. One of them just started this month because she was leaving another team. They were moving to a different suburb and she wanted to stay in our business. I'm like, okay, I'll create a role for you. Just come into the team. They all get paid. So how do I incentivize them? I've tried so many different methods, Linda, and this is the one that I think works. So I've tried individual. If you get me a lead in the door and when we list it, I'll give you X%. What I found in a team, if you've got 3 people doing that, they start clamoring over each other and fighting for that particular business. A team culture, a team environment, and team incentivization, in my opinion, is the best way to go. So now they all get paid a salary, and they get a percentage for, they'll get 5% for anything over a portion that we do for the quarter. All right, so each quarter's sectioned. So this month, each PA will make about 15 grand this quarter so far, and we've got a month to go. So their incentivization is pretty decent, because I want them to feel good about it. I don't want them to think, he's making all the money and I'm not. I still do a lot of work. I'm doing the bulk of the work, and most of the listings are coming through me from the work I did 8 years ago. But they're there to help, and they do an amazing job, and I love them. They're all brilliant. So yeah, I've found that after so many different methods, that is probably the best way to get the best out of people. And as a team, they work collectively.
Yeah, I was going to say, do they now? If there was someone under, and you may not know this because you have such a good culture. Because again, for guys, someone said before, one of the best things about Jarrod is how he treats his people. Because we've heard stories about Jarrod taking all the ladies to the shoe shop and saying, "Go your hardest, ladies, whatever you want." Things like that that really create a good culture within Jarrod's world. But yeah, do they manage out themselves someone who culturally doesn't fit, given that there's someone that's sort of getting the benefits financially and not contributing appropriately? Does that manage itself, or do you still have to take the...
Mate, great question, because we've had it, and sometimes I feel really guilty that people leaving the business would think that it's not a great culture. They'd listen to that comment and go, no, it's not a great culture. It's because sometimes it just doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit. There's some people that like to work aggressively. There's some people that like to work in an environment that is authoritarian, or it just doesn't match. It's like you guys all want to hold hands in kumbaya. It feels cliquey. Some environments just don't work for people. And they do tend to manage themselves out a little bit. Yes. Yeah. But they just go, you know what? I'm not happy. I don't like it here. You guys, I don't know. Just
too much hugging, whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Everyone's drinking the Kool-Aid. It just, for some people, it just doesn't feel right. I usually am pretty good at managing that. And I'll watch how they walk into a business and just go, hang on, whoa, what's going on here? Most of the time you can trace it back to something that's going on externally in their life. Most of the time, if they're shut down and they don't want to communicate, it's not going to work for anyone. And not everyone's been happy in our business. I'll openly admit that they haven't been happy in the business. They don't like the vibe. They don't like the feeling. They don't like me. I don't know. It just doesn't feel right, and that's okay. That's life. I try and do the right thing by everyone. I want to have an amazing business that no one has to walk on eggshells, that everyone kind of gets along and everyone appreciates each other's differences. Yeah. We've done personality tests numerous times on everyone as a team and gone, that's why you do that. That's just your personality, and appreciate each other's differences for that. So if you're running a bigger team, do that. Have a bit of fun with it. Do a disc profile on everyone. Okay, I'm not going to be able to talk to you like that anymore because your personality just won't take it on board. Or learn your people. But also understand, don't feel bad about it. Some people just aren't going to work out in your business. That's life.
Yeah. And so we're here today with, kind of informally, Naomi and I had this brain fart of an idea literally Thursday. We texted you Friday and said, hey, Jarrod, can you help a brother out? Like literally this was put together on a shoestring. But it's about the lockdown you guys are currently going through again. It's like these lockdowns followed me around. Like literally I'm in Queensland, they're locking me up. I come to Perth, they're locking me up. Like I'm surprised I didn't spend a week in Victoria and I thrust this upon you guys, because I've done 14 days. Because every time I came back to WA from seeing, being kids in other states, whatever, every time I'd have to do 14 days not leaving this property. Like, so I've done 5 now. I did 4 that were 14 days because of travel. And then I did 1 of 5 days when Perth had happened. What happened to you guys happened here. And then I did 1 over in Queensland for 3 days. So look, I don't like them. But that being said, I know there's half the world thinks this is a great idea, keep us safe. Half the world is mad thinking, don't take away my freedom. So regardless of what side of the debate we're on, it's having an impact on some people's psychology, brains, attitude, what do you call it? Is it dopamine or serotonin? All that stuff that you studied at a university level. Jarrod, mate, you're the only person I've spoken to on this space about what lockdown has done with any credibility in the psychology kind of realm. What's been your take? What's been your diagnosis? And what's your prescription for maybe some people doing it a bit tough psychologically? And from time to time, I've been one of them.
Mate, that's so big. And I've been one of them. Openly admit. The first lockdown, I wasn't great.
But wasn't your first one like forever?
Oh, man. The first one was hard.
The first one was
tough. The first one was tough in March last year.
They kept you bastards locked up for...
Yeah, we did. And then we got let out and then we got locked up again. So really interesting. And I'll go through my experience and then how other people might have reacted to it as well. My first one as a business owner was almost meltdown in a sense. It was holy shit, what happens now? So this was before JobKeeper, before any of that. And we were just staring down the barrel of losing 14 years of business of my life.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I wasn't great. I think I shut down, and I think a lot of other people did and just went into fear mode. Fear is what is driving just about everything at the moment. It's driving the real estate market. It's driving people going to get toilet paper and lose their brains. All right. So when you operate outside of fear, and when you calm and get a bit of tranquility in your head, everything sort of comes back to center. When the first lockdown happened, it was really, really interesting. People, until JobKeeper was a stroke of genius, I will say, on the government's part. It's just a shame our children are going to have to pay for it, and our children's children. But that saved a lot of jobs. It saved our business, I'll openly admit. And everyone worked as a team, but it was a real opportunity for us to come together as people. Now, someone's mentioned in there, lone wolf. Anybody that just got really into themselves and just got alone probably struggled more because they didn't reach out to other people and understand that there were people to help. It was a really challenging time. In between lockdowns, I noticed people just went back to their normal lives, and it was like everyone went back to the rat race. It was insane. Just, you could feel that everything just picked up again to this frenetic pace. And then the second lockdown, we got locked down again shortly after, was a smack into place. And I think that's where a lot of people either took it really, really harshly, or they found balance and found center. And for me, that's what I did. I just got into my family. I got up in the morning and took my wife and my dog for a walk on the beach, and it was amazing. And I made a conscious decision to appreciate the beauty in everything. And I'd walk on the beach and I'd find a flower that I hadn't seen before, and I would appreciate the beauty of that, and just got full hippie. It was amazing. It was the best thing ever. But it really was awesome. I stopped thinking, what am I missing out on? What about me? Woe is me, I'm struggling, blah, 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 to why don't I slow down, enjoy the break, and appreciate the beauty in everything that we're breathing. It was amazing. It was just a beautiful epiphany. And I looked around, and people were riding their bikes with their kids. They were going for walks. They were appreciating nature and being outdoors. And as soon as they were told that they could now leave their homes, everyone went back inside and got on their screens. It was remarkable. When we were told we couldn't leave, everyone was out there in the street.
We fight to leave.
Yeah, it was like the 80s. They were out in the street, kids riding bikes, going over to see friends, whatever else. And then as soon as we were told you can go out now, everyone went back home and just got on knees and became vegetables again. So I think the shift had to become, for most people, appreciate what you have, not what you don't have. All right? Focus in on what you can be grateful for, not how hard is everything. And it really allowed me to stop, think what is important in my life. And it's not working for everybody else. It's working for me and working for my family, and really prioritizing what is important.
Is there a process, Jarrod, when that's first-hand knowledge, because, man, we've been mates for years, and you know that I'm not a natural CEO. Like, I am not a natural business owner that is able to handle the pressure of $1.5 million a year. So whatever that works out at, what's that? 30 grand a week going in and out of my business every week in expenses and income and all of that. That pressure doesn't sit well with me. And so I'm constantly feeling the anxiety of those big numbers. And so you and I, we've talked about that before. So when you're in that fear, is there anything you could suggest to folks like me that it's perhaps harder to be grateful when you're sitting there with those fight or flight hormones going through your body? Like, it is hard to sort of sit there with that feeling there and be tranquil and, whatever. Have you got any hacks for those of us that do live on emotion of how to kind of, because I definitely get it that if you can find a way to discipline yourself and look at it from another perspective, perhaps with great gratitude or whatever, then those dopamine levels do go up, and those bad cortisol levels do go down. Got any hacks for us?
It's really interesting, mate, because you tell someone who is feeling depressed or someone who is feeling really anxious or low, and they have all that toxicity running through their body.
Yeah,
and
you say just don't.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, just don't. They focus in on it more. Okay. So if you, it's like anything, what you focus on expands. Okay. So if you're feeling down, you're feeling negative, you tend to focus on it. People go, just think positive thoughts, just be fucking happy. Stick your fucking happiness up your, sorry for swearing, everybody. But that's the natural reaction, is just to go, I don't want to feel positive at the moment. I don't feel like feeling happy. Don't tell me just to think positive thoughts. So it doesn't work. Just positive thoughts doesn't work. But what you do have to do is make split decisions to go and do something that is enjoyable, or push yourself to do something that will increase your levels of serotonin or oxytocin, serotonin, oxytocin.
All those good ones.
Yeah, something that's going to challenge you. So for me, if I feel like rewarding myself, I'll go and do a track day at Phillip Island and get some endorphins out and just ride like a fucking maniac. Or go for a walk, go for a run. But you have to push yourself past that point of I don't want to go and do it. Go out and get there and challenge yourself. Try and force yourself to go for a walk. Go for a very, very slow walk. This is a good hack for me. Hopefully it works for other people. Whenever you're feeling really flat, go for a very slow walk. People will think you're slightly tapped in the head. Walk slowly and just think and look at and look for the things that you're grateful for. Now, everyone goes, yeah, gratitude, blah, 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 fluffy, whatever. No, seriously, go for a walk and think of the things and look around for things you can be grateful for. And it can be so silly as, not silly, but even you see a tree and go, hang on, I'm really grateful for that tree because it provides oxygen. Without that, I don't breathe. You can bring it down to such a basic level. And I guarantee you, after a half-hour walk, 45-minute walk, you'll go home, you'll be thinking of even the things that are negative in your life, the crap that's happened. I look at some of the negative stuff and I'm grateful for it because it shaped who I am now and the challenges that I've had. And I walk home and I'm like, why am I smiling? Why am I so freaking happy? It just shifts everything. We just think of the smallest thing you can be grateful for, even if it's a crap experience, because it's helped you get to where you are now. That's if you're happy where you are now. If you're not happy where you are now, then you have to look for the reasons you can be grateful. If you are not happy in your position, if you're financially struggling, and I've been there, I love it when my back's up against the wall because I come out swinging. I come out fighting even harder. I like it when I'm challenged. I was written off 6 months ago when everyone left and lockdown, all that sort of stuff. So many people doubted me and said, he's finished. He's done. He's got no staff left. I'm like, fair, freaking tastic. Thanks for doubting me. I come out swinging. So don't just think positive. You can't just think positive. Think of what you can be grateful for. Go for a walk. Leave the house. If people say, I can't leave the house, I've got kids and I'm on my own, I'm a single parent, I'm trying to do it all on my own. Take 15, 20 minutes on your own, lock the door, and just think of what you can be positive, or not positive, what you can be grateful for. The fact that you have children, you can be grateful for, even if they're driving you batshit crazy. Yeah, you can be grateful that there's people who have not had children. Pete
Gourdouros is on now, and he's going to jump on in a minute. Our mutual mate Pete. Look at what they went through. With that. Other people fight with literally their fortune and everything on the line to have a kid.
Yep. So walking past the cemetery, Amanda, I'm just looking at that comment. 100%. And it's not about comparison. It's not about going, well, I'm better off than those people. But all of us could change tomorrow. Every one of us could just go. Yep. And I would rather be happy in this life and choose happiness. And happiness is a choice. It's not, it's a choice whether you want to be happy or not. You can, the emotional flexibility of children, here's a really cool thing. Watch a child. If they don't get something they want, they can crack the shits at an instant to try and get
child. That's me.
Yeah. Emotional flexibility, we've all got it. So you can choose to be in a positive mood. You can choose to be in a foul mood. And I've had some shockers where I just want to walk into the office and just be so mad and angry because of stuff that's gone on. But it's a choice. I get in a character. I just go, righto, what do the people around me need? They don't need some sulking, shitty boss that walks in and stomps his feet and kicks the bin. You know, I've lost it once in my office, and I'm not proud of it, and I feel guilty of it for it every day because it changed a relationship with one of the people I work with, and I'm not proud of it, and I feel like apologising for it every day because I just lost my banana in the middle of COVID. I'd had some news about a family member, and something happened, and I just lost the plot once in my career, and I still feel guilty about that.
Wow.
So yeah, choose to be in a better mood. Choose. You can't just choose to be happy, people say, but you can. It's a choice.
Yeah. I like the fact that you gave us a very specific strategy, and I've done it, sometimes successfully, sometimes that, I sit there and I know I'm fooling myself. You know what I mean?
You don't want to let go of it. I want to focus in on being shitty.
Yep.
That's
but
the mood I want to be in.
The hack for me, it's almost like what you just touched on it there. A hack for me, not that I'm doing it this time. Last time we did this, and Jarrod, you were part of it, and James Tostovan and Matt and Eric Thomas, and when lockdown first happened, we did a day like this. We did something like 13 hours, just all bloody day. And that was at a time where I was like you, when it first happened, and I was like, oh, and I really didn't know. But I do know that when I put on the character like this, like no one knows, not that I was, but I could have, if I was a bit this morning, if I'm on here doing this with you, there is no way that I won't feel some of the good, that I'll get off this thing and I'll go, you're beauty. So it's almost like playing the character of what I think I should be. I end up being that, internally. So I like that you
as long as you do internalize it, as long as it's not just, okay, you take the mask off.
And then you're
miserable. Yeah. Allow that to become your person where you go, okay, and I feel in a better mood now. Yeah. You will always feel better by communicating with other humans, other people that lift you up. All right. So don't call your miserable friend who you know is going to bring you down. Call the people or speak to the people or surround yourself with the people that are positive beacons, that are light. But as long as you're not the one that's sucking the life out of everybody. Okay. Yes, share your problems 100%. We can all share our problems. And we can all rally around to help other people. If you're always taking, think, okay, am I a good friend? Am I a good person to be around? Am I positive to be around? Am I good fun? Am I, what do I contribute? And if we're all contributing good things, then it'll be a really amazing place. But we all know someone who is that negative Nancy that's just, oh, it's so hot today. It's so sunny today. And the next day it's raining. It's like, oh, it's raining today. Come on, look for the positive in it. It's amazing. It's sunny here in Melbourne today. I've got a week off. It's freaking awesome. I wouldn't be given this opportunity. And the second lockdown was the best thing for me because I got back on the phone. I got back into the habit of ringing people, and I had a perfect excuse. Like, how are you dealing with lockdown? How are you feeling? Hadn't spoken to you in a while. These are people that I might have orphaned and not spoken to because we got caught up in life. Ring them up. How are you going? Yeah, we're not moving, Jarrod. That's not why I'm calling. I'm calling to see how you are. How's the family? How are things? How are the kids coping with lockdown? Like, oh, thanks for asking. And I felt better because I was communicating with other people and sharing their experiences.
Yep.
So,
well, Joanne Riley and a couple of other my students, but I know Joanne, I know Wayne over here in WA, actually services around here. They put out some marketing pieces kind of to that effect. I know we did a letterbox drop and social media things just saying, hey, I know this lockdown's a pain in the butt. My hour a day that I'm allowed to leave and shop and all of that. Look, if you can't leave or if you're, for whatever reason, what do you need? Do you need a dunny paper run? Do you need me to go get some mints? Do you need me to just do a post office run or whatever? So they put that out to the marketplace. I know Wayne was saying no one took him up on him doing anything for anyone, but his phone was buzzing and texting and ringing off the hook with people saying, look, man, I don't need anything, but you are a bloody champion, just with positivity for the offer of just, what do you need? Can I help with anything? So mate,
human beings, we're social creatures. We want to be in a system where people actually help and love each other. We want it. Even if we don't think we want it, we want it. So some really good hacks, mate, to other hacks that you might want. Music. Listen to music that lights you up. If you've got a trigger song that lights you up, mine's Led Zeppelin. Love it.
Immigrant song.
That gets me going. I listen to that and it's like, righto.
Did you lose your shit in Thor Ragnarok when that song was in it? Oh,
yeah. Yeah,
I nearly died. That
Yeah.
was
Very
perfect.
cool. Very cool. So music, yes, go for a grateful walk. Think of the things you're grateful for. Do some exercise because it releases dopamine. It releases endorphins in your body. Go do some exercise. And you and I've talked about it before, mate, and you've lost weight because of it. You don't have to go and run. You don't have to run a marathon. Go for a brisk walk.
Yep.
People lose weight. You lose at least, if you change nothing else, in a month to 2 months, you don't go for a half hour to 45-minute brisk walk every day, you'll lose 2% of your body fat. No question.
And for me, this was my hack. This was literally my hack. I give this one to you. Try this. And the only variable is change the person. But I would challenge anyone to walk for an hour and listen to an Eric Thomas keynote for an hour and come back cranky. That's, for me, he's my go-to hack attitudinally.
Yep.
Now, for someone that might not be Eric's style, it might be Tony Robbins, or it might
Tony
be
Robbins, Les
find
Brown.
your person.
Yep.
And
Les Brown, there's so many of them. Gary V, whoever works for you.
Yeah.
Glenn
For me, it's well, I do my best, but for me, it's Eric, man. He's just, and I'm, by the way, because Jarrod, you and I have spent significant time with Eric, and we've toured around the country with him and all of that. Where as soon as COVID's up, he is itching to come back to Australia, and I'm itching to have him. So ET is just my guy, and he's my guy attitudinally, because what he does is, it's sort of like there's this cycle, and I don't know if Jarrod, if you and I came up with this, but I know I've just got it in my head that people always say, like, we were just talking about, you just got to change your beliefs, because, you just got to change your beliefs, because what they say is if you change your beliefs, it'll change, your actions and the quality of your actions, which will then change the result that you get, which will then reinforce your belief. And so people say, you just got to believe. And no matter how much I go, I just couldn't believe. So, but if that cycle works, that beliefs lead to attitudes and a mood and a motivation, let's call it, that'll lead to actions and quality, and that actions of quality will lead to an outcome, which will reinforce the belief. And that cycle works both positively and negatively. If you believe shit things, then shit attitude and shit actions and shit results, hence reinforces the shit. And so I could never just go and change the beliefs. What I had to do is enter the cycle artificially by listening to Eric Thomas at the motivation level. That'd give me a half a day or a day or a week, or that'd give me an artificial window where, through no change in beliefs, my inputs and my actions would be of quality without changing the belief. That quality leads to a great outcome. Then my beliefs that used to be shit isn't possible to, oh, wow. So I don't have to go, I enter the cycle at a different point. Yes. And that was the point I used to enter.
And that's the thing about the belief cycle, that yes, people think it starts at the belief, but your actions and what you actually do should reinforce your beliefs. It'll come back around. I didn't always believe that I was going to be the best real estate agent. I set an intention that I wanted to be the best in the area. That was my intention. So beliefs don't have to come from what you actually believe about yourself. It can come from an action or a target or a goal. Then it reaffirms. So once you do start selling a few properties, you have to bottle the good stuff. Because what some people will do, they'll sell 5 properties, and I'm guilty of it myself. I do it all the time. I have to reset my head. I'll sell 10, and then I won't list one that I missed out on, and I'll beat myself over that one. I won't focus in on the 10 that I sold that I did an amazing job for. And my own wife will pick me up on it. She goes, what are you stressing about? I'm like, I just missed a listing to someone. It's like, yeah, you've had a massive month and you've had your record months. Why don't you focus on the good? I'm like, I shouldn't need you to tell me to do this. I've got myself. But it's true. We all get into it. If you focus on the good stuff, and that reaffirms how good you are and can be, it's to set the intention first and go and get it done. If you don't get it, you reward yourself for the inputs you have to try and get to it. All right. So when you break it down, you break everything down to an input level, just go, okay, I now reward myself for making 30 phone calls.
Yeah,
I don't reward
not for
myself
the result,
for
but for the doing.
Correct. I reward myself now for the doing of it, for the inputs, not the outcome. All right. Because it used to be outcome. I go, oh, cool. Well, I wrote 150 for the month. I'm going to go out for dinner and get a massage. No, I reward myself for the week of, yes, I made my 30 calls that I needed to make and the connections that I needed to make. Cool. Now I'm going to go give myself, because I know the results are going to come. And I believe that. I trust the process. I believe that. Not that believe that I'm the greatest real estate agent in the world. It's just I believe and I trust in my process to get to that. Does that make sense?
Perfectly, man. It's funny. We were talking about Bob Wolf before, and I've still got him on the desk. We designed a point system based on that exact principle. And we had a piece of paper that had everything that leads to a sale. Now, we did reward sales, of course, right? But if you made a phone call, that got half a point. If you spoke to a person, right? If you connected with a person, half a point. If you listened to an hour of motivational whatever, that was 2 points. If you read a book for 20 minutes, that was a point, like not fiction, non-fiction. So if you had a sales mentoring meeting with the principal licensee, 2 points. And if you got 40 points a day, now a settlement was 10 points. So result was heavily weighted, but if you were light on results, you could just make 80 phone calls and get your 40 points and do nothing else. And you would be absolutely. So anyway, that point sheet, when I went and spent a day in Bob Wolf never bought my program. And there, that thick on his desk, A3 size, was my points sheet sitting there. And I don't know how Bob frickin' got it. And I was too embarrassed to sort of say, hey, Bob, how'd you get that? Because you didn't buy my thing. But it was our point sheet, the graphic design, the copy, because we used to have down the bottom, 0 to 40 points for the week. You're sinking. And all of our copy was there. It was our point sheet that had somehow permeated into one of the best real estate agents in the world's business. And it was right on that principle, rewarding not only results, but rewarding what it takes to get results. So an open listing would get 2 points. An exclusive listing would get 5 points. A offer would get 5 points. A settlement would get 10, but a call would get half. Reading a book, reading this for 20 minutes would get you a point. So that way the things that lead to the result gets you. And so so think about this. At the end of a week, when you're a rookie, if you're basing your self-worth on money in the bank account, well, that doesn't come for 3 months because you've got to prospect and list and all of those things. Yet we'd be punching the air when we got 150 points because we look at the little thing, we say you're well on your way because that's the category, and no one's earned any money. But here we are high-fiving each other because we got all these points. Within a year or year and a half, we were number one in our area.
Yep. And that's the hard thing as a first year real estate agent or first couple of years, you haven't, you're not having the success because it's right. It's not money in the bank because it takes time to build up and takes time to build a database. You should be believing that you can do the work that it's going to take to get to that stage. So that's where the belief kicks in, not that I'm the best, because you're not yet. That whole fake it till you make it stuff. Okay, to a point, but you've got to do the work that it takes and reward yourself for doing the work that it takes. Model great agents, model what they do, copy it, and just do the work. But you have to do the work. That's where the belief comes from. There's a couple of questions in here. Do you mind if I?
Yeah, Linda's just said we'd love a copy of the point sheet. So let me just quickly say, Linda, and for anyone else who'd love that, I'll make sure that it's in the Agents Helping Agents Facebook group. All of the tools that we talk about today will be in that group. So if you haven't joined that group, please do. It's called Agents Helping Agents. You'll see the, let me just share my screen. You'll see that as the the header. Agents Helping Agents. It's a private group. My team will get you in there. And we started this group last time we did this at the start of COVID. And as you can see, 1,500 members. So wonderful. And the point sheet I will put in there, as well as any of the other promised resources that we talk about here today.
Got a couple of messages there from Eddie Murphy too, by the way.
Eddie Murphy.
How many? There's a little thing of Eddie Murphy down the bottom there. How many transactions, Nino? How many transactions or GCI did you write before you put on your first PA? I put on my first PA when I was a PA. So I put on an assistant. The company didn't pay for it. I put on an assistant when I was an assistant for someone else because I needed the help. No, it's crazy, I know. I had a bit of a different deal. I was working for another guy who did a lot of land estates. He basically had 2 vendors. He had massive land estates. I did every sale for him. I made him about $1 million a year. And I structured a deal that I could do my own sales on the side. So I was working 100, 120 hour weeks. I was a madman. And I put on a PA once I was writing about 150, 160 of my own a year in my first year. I just went, that's it. I need a PA. I'm going to put that on. I would think work your numbers, because the numbers never lie. So work out your profit point. I'm not sure of what your area is like, Nino, but if you're making 12 grand a sale or whatever it might be, our average is a fair bit higher, mine is anyway. Just work your numbers, work your profit point. Go, okay, where is an assistant going to help me? You need to be able to write the volume. There are plenty of people in our company that are doing 1 sale a month, 2 sales a month, and writing good money because they get to keep 70 or 80% of it, depending on what structure they've got. Just work your numbers that are true to you. But I would think if you're carrying 8 to 10 properties every month, you need help. You can't grow from there. And that's a real tipping point. If you've got that many properties on the books, that's a tipping point that you're going to start getting more business, because it's a self-fulfilling business if you're doing the right things.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And I like starting with a plan. I've spoken to so many agents when they engage me as a coach or guide or mentor, whatever it is. And I say, so, what's the plan? What are we going to earn? And they go, oh, could always do with a bit more, that'd be great. A bit more would be good. You need to know the numbers so you can work out the daily inputs. And then when you can no longer do those daily inputs that get you your number, you need help, and it'll be funded.
100%. Without a plan, you've got nothing. Even if it doesn't have to, everybody thinks a plan has to be this, really well articulated, perfect, 15-page dossier. No, my plan is really simple. List that many properties, sell that many properties, appraise that many properties to get to it. These are the sales we need every month at X. That's it. These many phone calls.
So look at that. If Jarrod needs 8 appraisals in a week for his goals, and he's at Thursday and he's only done 6, he's going to kill himself Friday with his whole team and say, we need 2 appraisals today or the goal doesn't happen. But he knows to a controllable mechanism. Appraisal, 2. That's all I need. Appraisal. Because you can control
and the comfort in that, if you know your numbers, and if you're a first-year agent, you're not going to know your numbers, but benchmark, work off a good benchmark. Know your numbers. So I know my percentage of listing. So I know if I've got 30 booked for the month, I'm going to list at least 15 of them. And don't kid yourself thinking that you're going to list 80 to 90%. Everyone goes, yeah, I list 80 to 90%. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense.
Well, that means they're not banking any for the future. That's
right. But I list 80 to 90% of what comes to the market. Yes, but you're still spending how many hours sat drinking milky teas with people doing appraisals?
Yeah, they're only listing 3, but they list the 3 because they only go to the 3 lay down misères, none of the ones that take skill.
Be true to yourself. Be true to yourself, and know that if you're sitting there for an hour or 45 minutes or whatever it is, hour and a half, that is your time that you are taking up. Yeah. So you're not going to list. If you're listing 80, 90%, you call me and let me know how you're doing it. Because most people, you'll go to appraisals. I think a really good agent would list 50 to 60%. That's an excellent agent. All right. My personal belief. Most in truth, if people looked at the amount that they're actually listing compared to the properties that they're appraising, most people are probably 10 to 20%, 10, 20, 30% if they're doing well. So don't lie to yourself, work the numbers out properly. If you're sat there having an appointment with someone, that's an appraisal, that counts.
Yep.
All right. Whether you're listed or not, whether they come to the market or not, you're spending an hour. So be ruthless with your time. If you're spending an hour with someone, that's got to be productive for some reason, whether it's a contact in the future, whether you've impacted them so heavily that they're going to go to the next barbecue and talk about how good you are and how nice you were. All right. Will talked about it before. Be nice to the kids. You can have an impact on someone, whether they're listing their house or not. All right. So, yeah, there's so much I can talk about, Glenn. Where do I start? Where do I stop?
I love it. Well, where's Pete? I did just
answer questions for Nina as well.
Yeah, I did just send let's just chuck him on because we're all mates. We've been hanging for years. I've just asked Peter Gourdouros. He's been on for a little bit. I hope he's there, but I've just asked him to turn on his cam. But yeah, let me, while we're doing that and while Pete's figuring out how to start my cam, I like this from Linda. And Jarrod, I'll get you to talk to this because you not only do this for yourself, but you do this for your team. I mentioned the shoe thing before. Linda says when she started out in sales, from every commission, she would do something. So now she's got Mont Blancs, and I know those suckers can be thousands of dollars. Definitely, I lost my first $300 Mont Blanc. I signed up a deal with the thing, and I was so excited I left it at the coffee shop, a $300 pen. So I was crushed. But so yeah, so she still loves admiring her pens or whatever it is that she bought her from every commission, because we do get a big chunk of change. Why not reward you something with something keepable each and every commission? What a great idea. So tell us about how you've implemented that, Jarrod, not only for yourself, but for your team.
Mine's not a great one, I have to admit, because for a little while, I have a fantastic bar. I love having a great bar that anyone could walk into in my house and go, oh, I haven't tried that before. Can I try that? I've got 30 gins in my bar. I just love it. I like to socialize, but I'm not a pisshead. So for a period of time, I would sell a house. I'd go and reward myself with a bottle of something. So my bar is so well stocked up.
Wow.
So that's not a positive one. I wouldn't recommend it for people because then you'll drink too much. But yeah, find something that you like to do. For me, if I reach my targets now, it's to go and ride this bad boy, to get on the track and go and burn around on my bike and get some speed on. It's a double reward for me because then I walk around for the next 2 days after that on this endorphin high. So yeah, they're the way I reward myself with that, or I'll reward myself with a holiday or something like that. But I attach it to the specific thing.
But I'm sure it makes you feel bloody good. Like the stories we've heard, and I've probably only heard 1 or 2 of the stories, and I'm sure culturally this is how you roll. But how did it make you feel personally and them when you took the girls into the shoe shop and said, whatever you want, that's for your admin team?
The first one was really significant because it was unexpected. The team know how crazy I am, so I surprised them and just said, "You coming with me? Let's go." They didn't know what to wear, didn't know anything. I just said, "You look fine. Let's go." and they thought we were going to be jumping out of a plane or something. They just didn't know because they know I'm a bit mental. And I just walked them across the street, walked them across the zebra crossing. And as we did, the time was beautiful. Ladies thrust open the doors of the shoe shop and they got to walk in. Now, one of the girls couldn't even walk in. She burst out crying, just said, I can't do this. It's too nice a gesture. It felt really good. It brought everyone together as a team. It really did. And for the girls, because a lot of agencies revolve around the salespeople and how good the salespeople are, and they reward the salespeople all the time. But without the administrative staff, without the people behind the scenes, shit doesn't get done. So I wanted them to feel special and feel that they were rewarded in the team and feel part of the team. Rewarding people at random, I find, is a really good way to make them feel good, to make them feel appreciated. The biggest reason people leave jobs is because they don't feel appreciated and they don't feel respected and that their input is regarded. All right. People think it's money. It's not money. That's way down the list. Way down the list. People want to feel appreciated, and that's why I did it. And they did. Some of the girls loved it. They absolutely loved it. It became an expectation. That's when it lost its sting after about 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. It
then became an expectation, and it wasn't met with as much gratitude, or it lost its impact a little bit because it was just like, oh, well, do I get my shoes? Not everyone. Some people were a bit like that and they were focused in on it too much.
That's where the unexpected thing comes in for
correct.
Sure. Like when, because as I said, Jarrod, well, that brings up a few things. Jarrod was bashing himself for sort of buying alcohol. Jarrod, I'm pretty sure you were there when we were at Arnold Schwarzenegger's house. Look at that shameless name drop. And he brings out Louis XIII cognac, $3,000 a bottle, so.
The strangest experience in my life was sat in that room. 2. One was I'd had a few red wines and I'm sitting on a card table with 5 people left. Don Cheadle's 2 seats for me. And I look up and I see Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I almost said out loud, how the f did I get here? It was ridiculous. It was like an out-of-body experience because I'm looking at my ultimate hero of my life watching movies, and I didn't feel they were just normal people. I felt like just normal people.
Yep.
But then when we sat outside and it was just you, me, Arnold, and someone else, I can't remember who it was, and I'm smoking a cigar and drinking this cognac and just chatting to Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Life has a funny way of I look at all of that stuff with him, Stallone, Jason Statham, and all those bloody heroes of our Richard Branson, Gary Vee, name the lineup, you know. But particularly with Arnold and Stallone, I've been programming my brain since I was a teenager for us to be in his backyard smoking cigars. Like literally, it's been The Secret personified. My whole life has been spent with that man as like a guiding light that I've been gravitated towards, because other people aren't doing that because they wouldn't value that enough to mortgage a house to try and put on an event and hire him, and all of the serendipity things that came into effect to make that experience happen, not only for me, but for my mates. You know, the amount of friends that I've gotten to take there. So that's, I suppose, you know, the first thing that I wanted to draw attention to. Now, what was the other? There was one other thing, and you got me all Schwarzenegger.
The thing about that too, though, is that they are just people. They're just flesh, bone people. They're regular people who decided to make irregular choices.
Oh, that's what it was. Because of Jarrod coming, Jarrod bought me something from Disneyland. Now, when I packed up and moved to Perth, there was a bunch of things I kind of had to get rid of because I'd just been carrying them around forever. But I can promise you, the signed Star Wars thing, because Jarrod knows I love Star Wars, he went to Disneyland, and here he was at Disneyland having a great time with his family. And what's he doing? Buying me bloody posters. And I'm sure it was a pain in the butt lugging it around and all of that. So that is pride of possession in my bar, is the gift that Jarrod got me that was unexpected. So certainly it brings me to the point, Jarrod, when you sort of said the girls started to anticipate it and things. The trick with gifting and incentivizing with things like that is the unexpected thing. You can't go ourselves as the person sort of doing that. You can't just do the same thing. You've got to be continually thinking, what's going to be my thing, you know?
Where I realized it, Glenn, was I looked at gamblers and addiction. And I thought, okay, when people expect a reward, and it's simple psychology, you pick up a bunch of these books behind me. When people expect a reward, it loses its magnification effect. So it's like gambling. You get a taste, and it's like, okay, now I'm going to look for that more. If it's too consistent, it's like, it's easy. When it's sporadic and it's you know, not expected, when that reward does come, then it's like, okay, now I'm hooked again. So
interesting.
There's lessons in everything.
Oh,
gambling.
for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, got some books for people to read.
Yeah, let's have the book reading list now. Peter Gourdouros, I've asked him to sort of turn his cam on. Peter, you're with us, brother. Unmute, turn on the cam. And Louise is on, who's part of my team, because Naomi went down to hang out with Tom Carlin today. Louisa, if you could maybe message Pete and sort of talk him through it, or text him or something, and see if Pete Gourdouros is on, because he's on and he's a panelist. It's just that he's not jumping on, and I know it's not because Pete, you're welcome, come on in. Oh, Jarrod, wait a minute, I got the same one. Where is it?
Dr. Robert Cialdini.
Wait a minute, we got to have a Cialdini off, Jarrod. Okay, so wait a minute, where's that one? That's Influence, Science and Persuasion. Yep. So there you go. So there's Influence, Science and Practice, the one Jarrod just said, by Robert Cialdini, CIA. Where you go? Where's the spelling? There's the spelling of his name. Yeah, Cialdini. That's the one to start with. Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion. And his most recent one, there's this one, yes, 50 Scientific Ways to Get Yes, but his most recent one is called Persuasion. And that's the one that is all about steps that you take before asking the sale that will grossly increase. It's like specializing in the thing we were talking about before, where it's everything that you do before you get to the listing opportunity that sets up a yes at the listing opportunity. Called
That's what I loved. Listening to Will was absolutely spot on.
Yeah.
That 10% of it is post. I took a photo of that. Loved it. Because most of it happens before, and this is what people don't understand. You talk about it a lot, mate, with your marketing out front. People have to have wanted you in the property in the first place to then make it easy for you to get the business. So most of what happens with me, I walk into most appointments and I've already got the business based on my team, based on what people know of me, perception, whatever. You're more likely to get the business based on your reputation than just you harassing people after you do an appraisal. You've got to win the business way, way ahead.
Yeah.
A lot of it starts well before the listing appointment. What information are you sending out? I know people who book an appointment and won't send any pre-listing, any stuff beforehand, won't text message to confirm, won't call to confirm appointments. It's all that stuff before that is going to get you listings. It's not just at the listing appointment, and it's not after the fact. It's too late.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yeah.
Right. So think about what you're sending out. As soon as you book an appointment, what are you sending out in that before that? What does your market think of you? What do people think when they think of you? Are you trustworthy? All that sort of stuff. You've got to build that perception firstly.
Yeah. Well, one of the principles in Robert Cialdini's seminal work, Influence the Psychology of Persuasion, is he talks about social proof. It's one of his big pillars. And so, something that we've been talking about for years now, Jarrod, of course, is, whenever you sell, the best salesperson for you to get your next listing is your last vendor singing your praises, the person who hired you historically. So if you can have in your social media mix, we talked about this at the Total Facebook Success event a couple of weeks ago, when you've got in your social media mix all the proof and evidence that your historic vendors adore you, then, I think Matt Steinwade's done it, Jarrod. I don't know if you've done this one where you dump a list of 100 phone numbers of your last vendors down and you say, call any one of them and, just ask them how it is. Just that act alone shows that they're in safe hands if they choose you, not because you're saying so, but because so many other people who've gone before them have paved the way that you're safe to engage Jarrod, for example.
Social proof is the biggest motivator, driver of people doing things, 100%. Perfect example, toilet paper in Victoria.
No,
people buying toilet paper.
Worldwide. What is it about dunny paper that everywhere it's the thing?
We are sheep. We follow what other people do. It is simple human psychology. So if we've seen that someone has done business with someone and it was a pleasant experience, and especially if we identify with that person, so if your target audience, your target market is older couples, then show pictures, video of older couples appreciating you, talking about how good you are. If it's younger couples, whatever your target market is, get specific examples of that. The best listing tool is a sold sticker on a board or proof in the area that you are active. Okay. Yeah. If you're struggling, if you're first year, second year, third year, and you haven't got that proof so much, you haven't got that activity happening, do it around other people's sold stuff. Ring the neighbors, ring people that the listing's just gone up or it's just sold and said, hey, have you seen the sales down the road? Have you seen what that place went for? Talk to them about that. Talk to them about successes in the area, because people will follow other humans. It's what we do. It's how real estate markets work. It's how stock market works. We follow the popular movement. It's what we all do. It's human nature. We feel comfortable. It goes way back to caveman days.
Well, Jarrod,
how we're wired.
You're not only a mentor that I've gone to for help in so many ways, but I'm honoured that you paid me a chunk of change at one stage to get my highest level program that was certainly not cheap. I mean, it was to the tune of 30 grand or something like that at that time. I'm guessing that there isn't a single person that has paid me that level of money that didn't do it because they saw other agents before them pay it, happy they paid it, and got a return on that 30K investment. Could you speak to that from personal experience?
Yeah, look, I think I did it because I believed in you, but because of
why did you believe
that happened prior to it. I wasn't the first person that you'd approach and said, hey, give me 30 grand to sign up to my program that hasn't got any proof or hasn't got any results. It doesn't work like that. You've got to show the results. You've got to, even if it's one person that says, yes, I got results from that, yes, you should do it. That's enough. And that's all you ask for with a vendor. I'd seen other people had gone through your program, had done it, and they got results from it. And of course, I believed in it. So
imagine if I cold called anyone who's first on the call here today, for example, and I said, yep, my top program, and now it's $5,000 a month, so it's 60 grand a year. Imagine if I said to any of you guys, cold call, you never heard of me. Hey, it's Glenn Twiddle, I'm a coach, I'm all right. 60 grand and I'll help you out. You know what I'd hear? Beep, 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 beep.
Yeah, that's what we're doing a lot with real estate. We ring people cold and say, hey, come and list your house with me. okay, who are you again? And I'm not listing my house. I don't want to sell my house. Get away from me, stalker. So you've got to warm up your audience. They've got to know who you are. They've got to and if they don't know who you are, make it about them. This is the most important thing, because you can get caught in the trap of me. It's all about me. I've got to promote myself. Me. What the client sees is it's about you.
Yeah.
It has to become about them.
Yep.
At the point. What do you offer them? What is it to them?
Yep.
More importantly, Peter Gourdouros is here.
Peter Gourdouros. How you doing, man?
Hey guys, what's going on?
Mate, good to see you, my man. I've been sitting there. There's 2 Peter Gourdouroses on this webinar. And I've been
I
sitting there.
I don't know how that happened.
I've been sitting there saying to the other one, come on, Pete, come on, Peter.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
It's all right. Linda
Gourdouros
must know you
technology.
really well, because Linda said, Pete's just doing Pete.
Yeah. Peter Gourdouros and technology.
Hey, been, my man. Been too long, bro.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while. It's been an interesting 12 months, that's for sure.
Mate, before we get on to how legendary you are, and we know you are, but what are some of the, because you and, me and Jarrod, we've been hanging in the same circles for years now. What would you say is some of the best stuff you've ever learned from our man just here, who's, again, getting all the praises in the chat. Everyone's saying they love you. John McTavish, Jarrod, was my first ever, or maybe third, I think, CD of the month volume, back when I did CDs of the month, back in 2009 or something. And John McTavish said he's got a man crush on you. So, but what's the best thing you've learned from Jarrod, Pete?
I think with Jarrod, it's just his friendship. He's certainly been there for me in a time where we're, look, I certainly try to stand up, but I went through a stage where it got a bit tough for me, and then Jarrod was there for me. So, I certainly don't forget those times. So, it's been a different period, that's for sure.
Mm. How's COVID been for you, man? We haven't spoken too much. I know we've swapped some texts and things, but you're often in my thoughts, and certainly me and Naomi, we're always saying, how's Pete going? What's going on? And stuff. So how's it been for you, man?
Yeah, well, like it's, as I said, the last 12 months for me has probably been it was going well, and then I just sort of hit a bit of a lull on a personal level. But look, we go through this, and I think this real estate industry can do that to you. I try to stay strong for everyone, and in the end, I forgot about the most important person, and that was probably me. And but look, at the end of the day, I mean, I've learned some amazing lessons in this period, and if anything, it's made me a stronger person. There were certainly things that I probably could have done a bit better, but Jarrod's aware we speak a lot. But yeah, look, I mean, I'm on the other end of it, put it that way. Like this is not affecting me. This period is not affecting me at all the last 7 days. It's if anything, I mean, I've had a really good listing month. I've had 15 listings this month. So it's been a very good listing month. But then you got people like Jarrod Carman's right 300 a month at the moment. So it's pretty good going.
Shoe on the other foot, Jarrod. Pete brings a unique skill set, and Pete's spoken on, some of our biggest stages around the country with, as soon as we booked the Altman brothers, it's like, Pete, come and he was auctioning, he did a demo auction, then he trained us all and everything. But what are some of the things you've learned and admired and seen from Pete that you would sort of draw folks' attention to maybe emulate or model in their career?
Pete's by far one of the best auctioneers I've seen. So I've learned a lot from Peter. My auctioneering has gone leaps and bounds because of Pete. But you talk about friendship, mate. He's one of the most raw, real people that you'll come across. Wears his heart on his sleeve, and I think some people do have taken advantage of that in the past or not really understood Peter for that. But yeah, friendship, and I think being real. He'll be the first person that steps up if you're being a dickhead, and he'll just say, "Hey, mate, you're being a dickhead." I'm like, yeah, you're right. Thanks. But one of those people who you watch and you go, mate, I just wish you knew how good you were.
It was funny. Remember? No, you were. You weren't in a diamond year with Pete, were you? You were the year before?
No, I was the year
Or
before.
2 years before, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I remember there was that phenomena where we just couldn't get Pete to raise his fees. He's the best, most talented guy in the area, and we just couldn't do it. It was like the day after Diamond that he got 3% or something for the first. It took us a year for us to say, Pete, you are so worth this. You are not worth, what the rookie down the road with no experience is worth, mate. You can do it. So let me ask you this. I'm going to ask you first, Jarrod, but then I'm going to come to Pete, but we're talking about Pete at the moment. But you've done this as well, Jarrod. I've been in Pete's office where we've gone down to his office and Pete said, let's go up the road for a coffee. And we've walked like 60 meters. And within that 60 meters time, Pete has been stopped by 14 people, all want to have a good old chat. He is famous, rock star famous on that strip of shops. He can't walk down the street without it taking an hour and a half to get to the coffee shop down the road. What is it that Pete did to get that? And what did you do to do the same sort of thing?
I would love to bottle that because Pete does it better than anybody else I know because he's genuine and he's involved in the community. So he's been involved with football clubs. He doesn't sponsor them, he gets involved. And that's the biggest thing I would say about Peter. He's there pretending he's not here. He gets involved with people. He gets involved at a real level and communicates with them on their level as a human. So he'll stop some guy who looks homeless with a fag hanging out of his mouth and go, Pete, how you going, mate? Yeah, good to see you. And then next to a woman in a dressed up to the nines will be like, hi Peter, how are you? And he communicates with them on their level that they feel comfortable with. Doesn't change himself. He doesn't all of a sudden start speaking with a plum in his mouth, but engages with people on their level as just a really good, genuine, decent bloke. And I couldn't believe the amount of times he got stopped. I was almost a little bit envious. I'm like, shit, I don't get this reaction. Yeah. But people love him because he's engaging and he's warm and he talks to them. He doesn't just go, oh yeah, hey, how you going? And wants to talk real estate. He talks to them about the things that they're interested in and on their level in their lives. And
agreed.
That is just gold. So people just ring him and say, hey, Pete, you want to come to sell my house now? Yeah. Because he's just been talking to them for years just down the street.
And I was really particular to note, it wasn't Pete forcing himself on those 14 conversations. They were coming to him. Yep. They were instigating. They were driving down the street, beeping the horn, waving. So really, I mean, one of them was, look, it's, to me, it meant something. One of them who was doing it was Stan the Man Longidis, the fighter. And when I was a young fella, like Stan the Man Longidis, like 20 years ago, was the man in that sport. And hey, Pete, what's going on? So yeah, it's fascinating, Pete. So what would you say to that celebrity status that you've built?
I tell you, the reason why I said hello to Stan the Man is you didn't want him to beat the shit out of me. So that's probably the reality. He's a big unit, I'll tell you. But yeah, there you go. There's a man who was a real thug growing up, and now he's a full churchgoer. And born again Christian, and just changed his values. So, look, I think as much as I look at this, it stems a lot from my parents. Mum and dad, of course, being Greek, we owned a fish and chip shop, surprise, surprise. And mum and dad always made me that little boy behind the counter. I was always told to talk to him, be nice and personable as best as you can. Look, not everyone's going to like you in this industry. I mean, people just, sometimes people just, you talk to people and they just think you want something from them, but you don't. Like, it's just nice to have a conversation, because I think the world's gone mad in that respect, where people don't want to say hello to each other anymore. And, I think that's something that I've always tried to, but it's funny, like lately I've been doing it a lot more because it was something that was working for me. I had stopped there for about 6 months, probably because we were locked up in COVID and probably couldn't get out as much. But look, I guess for me, I just do it because that's my natural habitat. Like, that's just me. I mean, I'm a boy's boy and always will be, part of the footy clubs. Even though I'm not coaching anymore. But I enjoy that. I enjoy that interaction with people, because if you do it without wanting something from it, I think in your own way, it'll come back to you the way, because you're just a decent person. Just say hello. Like, it's not rocket science. And, I've had listings. I walked into a coffee shop the other day and I saw this lady that I knew, and all I did was say hello. That's all I said was hello. And she goes, "Oh, my daughter's going through a divorce at the moment. Can I grab your card? I want to do an appraisal. She's got a property in Patterson Lakes." The girl rang me 4 hours later. It's just one of those things.
So there's a prospecting script, gang. Put that on your best-selling scripts and dialogues bloody book. It's called Hello.
That's it.
You had me at hello.
You had me at hello.
So Pete, you mentioned that because Jarrod said he's a extroverted introvert. So he's saying naturally an introvert who had to figure out some extroverted characteristics in order to do it. You and me, we are kind of people. How have you coped both positively and or has it hurt you like it has me to be locked up? Like, how have you dealt with COVID with extrovertedness as your nature?
Well, mate, I can be pretty raw about this, and I went through a really tough time, mate, and I've probably never dealt with mental health before, and in this period I really suffered, but I guess I needed to go through what I went through to get to where I am today. And I'm not, and I'm a very proud person, and however, it took a couple of my mates to go, "Hey, wake up," and Jarrod was one of them, and I'll never forget that. And I get emotional about it, and I still to this day, I've had some great support. I've learned, this COVID period, if anything, I'm probably starting to learn to love myself again, and now more so now that I've come back out, listed 15 properties for the month, and that's thanks to a great team, and that is Bianca and Mark that I have in my team, that they're just great support and so forth. But I've learnt now that I just can't take I can't be a people pleaser. That was one of my things. I was a massive people pleaser, and I think now I've realised that I don't have to be someone that I don't need to be. And I've learned a lot. I mean, I won't have any more negativity in my life. I won't do it anymore. I can't have negative people. I mean, Sophia reckons I'm a bit harsh, but it doesn't matter who it is, whether it's family, whether it's brothers, sisters, mothers, brothers, cats, dogs, I don't know, whatever. I just won't have it. I just can't have people like that dragging me down. But apart from that, I've had some good lessons this period.
Yeah, I think you learn to be a bit ruthless with your time and the people that you are prepared to help out, or not help out, but the people that you're prepared to let into your world. And being that people pleaser, there's plenty of them that I'm sure are watching.
Oh, geez, I'm one of them. I've got a book up here because I've identified it. I've got a book up there. It's called Approval Addiction. I know I've got it, and I might have gotten better at it, but I don't even know if I have. And that's how diligent I am trying to find it. The book up there called Approval Addiction. I'm desperate to not need that.
Part of it is personality, though. That's your personality type. I think when you just learn to harness it to its best and not seek everyone's approval, and a lot of us are guilty of doing it, but Pete definitely got into it too much, that he didn't love himself enough and was looking for everybody else's approval to prop him up, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And people dump you pretty quick.
Yeah, who would have thought, Jarrod, that we're actually human beings and we go through stuff. People just think we're real estate agents and make money. It's
yes. Yeah, I think that's what I've appreciated about the whole industry, is that we are just human at the end of the day. We're not robots. We do the best for ourselves and our families. But at the end of the day, you've got to look after yourself first, and then you can look after other people. But when you're trying to look after everybody else, and this is the lesson in COVID for me, it was for you, Pete, and I'm sure it is for you too, Glenn, that when you stop thinking I'm going to please everybody else and you get yourself right, then you can help other people. It's getting that right first. I pulled back a lot.
I used to laugh. My dad used to say to me, "Tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are." So basically, we started hanging around with turkeys. You become a turkey. So, You know, I've actually had to, I've eliminated a lot of, and, you know, it's not their fault, was my fault with the people that I hung around with. And you know, I was warned, some people are not good people. And then, you know, and they're all good. I mean, I've put them aside. I'm more at peace now. Yeah, so I'm more at peace, and, you know, I'm just really lucky that I've got staff that have stood by, you know, all of us, you know, in the office, like everyone stood together, and we just fought. And everyone fought. Mm-hmm. And I look at Jarrod. I mean, you know, Jarrod went through a transition period with losing some bloody unbelievable people. We had some amazing chats. We've both seen each other's, you know, hurting side.
Best and worst days, yeah.
And, you know, the good thing about it is that, you know, Jarrod's just going, you know what, I'm freaking lifting right now. I'm making it happen. And that's what he's done. And I looked at him, and I looked at his figures the other day, and I went, fucking prick. But I didn't do it out of, like, it was actually more out of respect for him. And you know what? We've all been hit hard. We bounced back. That's the best thing about it.
Yeah, I agree. When Naomi told me that, well, it was Jarrod who told me maybe a year ago, when I think I was doing something and Jarrod couldn't be a part of it or something. And he said, I'm getting back on the tools. All I know is Jarrod was getting back on the tools. And then when Naomi said Jarrod's had a record month, I'm like, he said he was going to give it another nudge. Yeah. And look at this son of a gun.
I did say, Glenn, you'd have to pay me a bloody fortune to get me to speak at a conference, because I just pushed it all aside. And I'd had people that signed on. I was doing coaching things. I'd had people that signed on to a coaching program with me, and I gave them all their money back and just said, thank you. I really appreciate it. It was pre-COVID. I said, thank you. I haven't got the space for it at the moment. I need to come into myself. And it was the most selfish thing I've ever done. But I had to get myself right before I could fake, you know, helping everybody else. I just wasn't in the headspace for it. Refunded all the money and just went, righto, what can I focus on? Yeah. And if that's a lesson for anybody else, just focus on what you can improve, focus on your world. Linda's said a really cool thing, get you right. You can't change the world. You have to change you, then you can change the world. And I thought, fuck it. I've got to show everyone. Doubt me? Bring it on.
Oh, he's showing them, all right.
Nice. So, Pete, we've been talking today a little bit about, and, you know, I'm honoured that both you guys have had me in your office. You know, I've seen both of your guys' businesses up close, personal. You know, I beat everyone in Jarrod's office on the ping pong table, and no one's going to take my trophy away from me there. And I'm up for anyone who wants to have a crack.
Well, I need to come to Queensland to beat you, mate, because I haven't been beaten either.
No, we'll meet at Jarrod's office. As soon as we're allowed to travel, we'll meet. Done. We'll go and invade his.
Done. I'll play you with my mask on.
Oh, Jesus. I'll hug you without a mask, brother. I'll take my chances with COVID. Let me just tell you. I almost want to get it. Like, anyway, I don't want to go down the debate side, because I know that I'll upset half the people who are on here. Yeah. But where was I going with that? I've been honoured to be in both your businesses. So I've seen up close and personal both your skill sets and stuff. We've been talking a little bit today about going from an agent by yourself to an agent with a PA, and how much of that conversation did you catch? And is there anything you'd add about outsourcing some tasks so you can do 15 sales in a month?
Jazz?
We've sort of talked with Jarrod a fair bit. Okay. I just wondered if you caught any of that and you'd add anything.
No, I didn't, mate. I've had 3 Zoom calls. This is my 4th for the day.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I look, with the outsourcing, I mean, that's something that our management team
whether that's staff or whether that's a service provider outsourced or whatever, that's anything where Pete Gourdouros goes from an agent doing everything to having some tasks done by others.
Yeah. Look, I mean, obviously, I'm quite blessed to have 2 really great people by my side, people that actually care. And look, I let them do it all. I actually don't have any. One of my issues was I was always controlling everything. So if it meant, like, if we need to, you know, outsource, you know, whatever it is, I let them make the decision, because I trust them enough. You know, Bianca, you know, who works in my direct team, does a lot of that. So look, I would outsource as much as I can. I'm not a massive fan of the overseas stuff.
No, me
I
either.
like more of the personal interaction. I do still believe the face-to-face stuff is more important. You know, like people say now we've got DocuSign and you know, we're getting contracts signed and that's all well and good, but you know, you're sending off a contract to a vendor that you've been working with and all they do is sign. You don't actually get the privilege of actually seeing them sign a contract.
Well, you guys have seen, I'm sure you guys have seen I had those made because of that phenomena. Click from place to place, but don't you dare forget face to face. That's where all the magic happens.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And you know, we've still got that. And you know, it's you know, actually I think we've got two. So but look, I think outsourcing is good, but I think I'd be strategic about it. Let's be honest, I mean, I'm not a racist guy, but I mean, I hate waiting on the phone for 45 minutes, you know, and waiting to get an answer for whatever that may be. I would rather know that I'm getting an answer, it's done, we move on. Yeah, look, as I said, you want to go to another level. I do believe getting someone in your team, if you're a standalone agent right now, I do believe that if you're around the 150 to 200 mark, I think it's important that you turn around and go, you know what, I want to get to 300 or 400 or 500. I think putting someone on right now is important. Look, guys, there's so much business out there, and it's all about planning and putting things in place. As I said, I'm just blessed that I've got two amazing people in my team, and I'm honoured to have them.
Yeah. I mean, Jarrod mentioned before that right now is the greatest time in his, 14, 15 years in real estate. I've been in not much longer, 20 years in real estate. And certainly from the perspective of if you get some listings hard now, they're selling, right? There's very few areas in Australia that aren't enough buyers that they're going to, as long as they're even appropriately priced, they're going to move. What I would say is absolutely capitalize on that fact, but make sure you're upskilling for the reverse, because we were talking earlier about Michael Spillane during sort of 2012, 13, 14, when the market up in Queensland many agents were saying it was the worst market ever. Well, that's when Michael grew to $1 million agent, was during that time when no one could sell nothing except someone with the skills to transact properties because he had a system there.
I 100% look forward to those times. I look forward to when it gets harder.
Yeah.
Because that's when the cream rise. And this is all about upskilling right now. You have to hone in on and take the opportunities when things are a bit slower. Streamline your process, rip everything apart. Are you doing things the right way? Have you implemented all the things you talked about? Yeah. Plenty of us can train, but unless you're implementing, then you're wasting your time. And now's a great opportunity to do it.
Well, now, I mean, it's wonderful. If you're now banking a whole bunch of listings and putting a whole heap of money in your pocket, wonderful. When things get slower, those 75 people that you've ignored that were lined up at that open for inspection, you better have at least started a relationship so that when it gets tougher, you can start harvesting and fertilizing and cultivating those relationships so you can stay alive till the next cycle when you put $1.5 million in your pocket.
Well, what you just said, Glenn, was so true. Like, we're getting so many buys through properties right now. It's well and good, but I think it's something that we don't do well. I think, if there's anything that I would ever give to any age, I've been in real estate for 30 years, and one thing I wish I'd done better was my databasing.
Yeah, imagine what you'd have, Pete.
Yeah, I write decent figures, but the reality is, if I'm databased and the people that we think that are coming through opens, if we build a relationship, remember, they're all buying in your area. They're in here for a reason. If you maintain a great relationship with these people, imagine what your target market would be like in 5 to 10 years. And it's something that I'm now doing even more. And that's why, we have Mark who works with the buyers, but we're building reports. We're actually sending Christmas anniversary cards to every other agent's anniversaries. So why are we doing that? One of my guys in our office has done it. And basically he got a listing. The lady thought he was the one that sold it to him.
Sold it to him. Yeah. Yeah, I remember. I don't know if you guys heard Chris tell the story a couple of conferences ago, a couple of years back, but he was at a listing presentation and the seller started saying, and so remember when you sold it to us and blah, 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 blah. And Chris said, I didn't sell it to you. And they go, yeah, you idiot. They thought he was joking or whatever. He had to like convince them that it wasn't him, that he met them at an open, but because he'd so diligently for 5 years stayed in touch with them, they swore that he was the agent that sold it to them. Yeah. So what does that say about the other agent who just never touched base again the day after settlement day? Probably not even at settlement day.
People don't remember us. We think we're memorable. People don't. They just forget the amount of times I've asked people who sold you the home. And they go, oh yeah, thingamajiggy from
thingamajiggy from Wesmabob. They don't know nothing. Like, it's how often do we really think because we wake up and go to sleep. Like, I wake up and go to sleep thinking about how I can help you two, right? But if I don't make sure I'm telling you two that, now when I say that, I mean 40,000 real estate agents, from the minute I wake up till the minute I go to sleep, I'm thinking, how can I help, right? If I'm not shoving my stupid bald head in your guy's face in some way, shape or form every single week, you aren't thinking about me ever. And these are two of my best mates in the bloody industry, let alone the agent that I've never seen.
Yeah, you're pretty hard to forget back, Glenn.
But do you see what I'm saying, though? That
absolutely.
Most people aren't thinking about what their local real estate agent is doing, even if they've sold a house for you, ever, unless you make them. You know, unless they see you walking down the street like Pete does, unless they see you on the side of a bus like Jarrod does, unless you're doing a doggy pat a dog day like Pete and his wife Sophia do, you know, because she loves dogs. They do a dog function. Everyone loves their dog. And, you know, that makes, what's that got to do with listing and selling a house? Nothing. It's got to do with the people so that Pete, Sophia, and hence their business actually have some reason to talk to their community for the 7 years when they don't need a real estate agent.
Yeah, it's true. And at the end of the day, I think if we do things because we want to make money, it won't happen. I think if you come from a place of actually you do it because you want to do it, you know, it'll just come to you naturally.
Yep, beautiful.
All right, we're going to leave it there. That was part of a full event, though, called Agents Helping Agents. And if you do want a copy of that full event, just go to the Agents Helping Agents group on Facebook. The full recording of the 2-day event that we did is in there, 2 half days. So about 7 or 8 hours of good, solid content of that quality, including Shannon Knoll, including a who's who of many of my students, like Peter, like Jarrod. And Shannon Knoll even jumps on, the great Australian rock musician, that jumps on among many, many more. So if you do want that full event, the recordings are in the Agents Helping Agents Facebook group. So go there, free membership. It might just ask you where you heard this. So put the Real Estate Renegades podcast, that'll get you qualified. And you'll be able to avail yourself of more quality training just like that one if you are interested. But on that note, thank you for listening to this episode of Real Estate Renegades. And until next time, make sure you whack that like now, as Davey504 says, slap like now, slappers. Slap the like button, slap the bell button so you get all of this free training at your disposal for you to improve your real estate business like you never have before. I'm Glenn Twiddle signing off. Bye for now.
Wow. Well, there you go. I hope you liked the episode. If you liked that, then what you need to do is you need to subscribe. You need to get more of this craziness because we got more coming. I'm never standing still, and we've got so many more guests. We've got so many more strategies, more out-of-the-box thinking. So if you haven't subscribed, literally, you're like throwing away thousands of dollars. So I tell you, if you haven't subscribed, you don't come back, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to find you, I'm going to market to you, and I'm going to charge you for the very stuff that on this podcast we give away for free. So whack that subscribe button on whatever your favorite podcast weapon of destruction is, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.